What's going on, sir? How are you?
How are you?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. So, just had your other partners on not too long ago.
Yeah.
In the workout space.
Yeah,
I guess.
Tom.
Yeah.
I watched that whole deal. It was good.
Yeah, man. But I mean, I guess we just really want to talk about you because I don't know that much about you. We just formally actually met.
Right.
And I know you got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. And also, of course, I'm always going to talk about CrossFit and working out and all that stuff too. So let's get right into it, man.
All right. Well, I'm about it. So I'm a lawyer by trade. Been practicing law for, I don't know, lost count, I think 27 years. You're in the company of a bunch of old guys between Tom and Ken and me. So I'm 55. I think Tom's 54. Ken's 57.
Okay.
So I turned 56 in August.
Okay.
So, but been CrossFitting about 12 years. I started right after both those guys did. And then I've known Tom all my life. I grew up with his sister in my grade. And I knew he was doing it, and then I started, and then Ken and I started competing against each other. And so I was at a different gym, and I said, hey man, I want to come over and work out with you one day a week, because he is good. He's always been good. And so I started working out with him one day a week. Then it became 2 days a week, and then finally I just moved over to Red River CrossFit. And then me and Ken and Tom have been together ever since. So, been doing CrossFit for a long time, and I'm a big advocate of it.
How'd you get into it?
So, that's kind of part of my one of the things I'm passionate about is trying to help people over 40, particularly guys, kind of get their health and fitness back. When I had my second child, my fitness went down, my weight went up. I was around 260.
Okay.
So starting about age 40 to 43 is when it really got bad. And so around 43, I just decided, it's kind of a crazy story, but and I tell this because I try to get people to appreciate what happens when you get older. Your metabolism goes down. You can't drop weight like you used to. Yeah. All that. So, and I'm a lawyer. So back then, this was well before COVID, but we would dress up a lot. You'd wear suits to work, slacks to work. I'd gotten to the point where I'd let all my slacks out as far as they could go. Some of my suit tops I'd had to let out. I mean, I'd gotten that big. And I just realized one day, I was like, I'm either going to have to buy an entire new wardrobe or I need to do something. And so I started working on it, and over the period of 2 years, I lost about 60 pounds. And I've kept that off since, for over 10 years.
Got you.
And so it was in that time and space where I got into CrossFit. I was doing everything. I was running. I did Tough Mudders, but all that running started to really take its toll on my back. I was starting to have sciatica and stuff. When we were training for those Tough Mudders, we were running 10 miles every Saturday. Yeah. And I'm stocky and I'm not long and lean, and my body's not built for that kind of running. So it took its toll on me. But what was funny is that I thought CrossFit was going to be hard on my back, but it was completely the opposite. As soon as I started building core strength and stability strength, that my back problems went away. And haven't had them since.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest misconception, and we've talked about it before to multiple people, but I thought the same thing, and I stayed away from it for a while, being athletic in the MMA space and the boxing and then powerlifting, and I stayed away from it because I was like, oh man, that's just people were prone to getting hurt, because a lot of people were getting hurt, but it's because they had bad form or they were trying to go in there and do too much heavy weight, which is we're all guilty of that, especially with ego, But that's been the misconception, right? For CrossFit, is everyone thinks that, oh, you don't need to do that. It's horrible on you, your joints and your back, and
So I've got an interesting story about that. When I was just doing bro session lifting, I started getting arthritis in mainly my right shoulder joint. There's a cartilage right there. And so I've always seen John Mays, shout out to John May, orthopedic surgeon. I went to see John, and he was like, well, I mean, you're getting some arthritis in your shoulder. and he was giving me some steroid shots, and because of that, you could only get them every 6 months or something.
Yeah.
And he was recommended that I not do anything above shoulder, and so that worked out for a little while, but I kept having to go back to him. But I tell this story because as soon as I started CrossFit, that shoulder pain went away. I've never had it since. That was 12 years ago. Never had a shot, nothing. And what I attribute that to is the building of flexibility in your joints, and the building of strength and flexibility in your joints. From the overhead movements, snatches, overhead squats, it was really bizarre because I wasn't lifting that much weight in the gym, but doing like the shoulder flies and that kind of thing. And I mean, man, it got to where it was bad. And then once I started CrossFit, literally have never had a problem, never went back. And it just really is to me, it shows you how you build flexibility and strength in your joints.
Yeah, I think it's that's what people don't talk about. When you do like your bro lifting or whatever, like you're restricting your movements, right? So you're restricting the way that your body bends, and you're focusing on one stationary position, and then doing something repetition in that one isolated position. Whereas in CrossFit, you're having to. It was at first it was really difficult for me to get flexibility because I'd built up that like you're talking about, and then once I've gained, and I'm still not where I need to be, but like once I've gained more momentum and flexibility, then you're starting to strengthen your body in positions it's never used before. And I think that overall is what helps most people, but no one wants to. I mean, everyone, I guess they put it in a box to where it's like, hey, you don't need to do this because one, it's unknown movement or stuff people aren't familiar with,
Well, I'm one of those guys, and I know Ken and Tom are too. I've been doing CrossFit 12 years. I've had what I call one significant injury, and it was my fault. I was getting on a pegboard. We had just gotten a pegboard in the gym way back when. It was a long time ago. And I was warming up in the gym, but I wasn't warm. I was over there doing my own warm-up, and some guys were getting on the pegboard. And I went over there, decided to get on the pegboard, and so I went here. And when I went here, I tore my pec. I felt it pop.
Where did you tear it at? So did you detach? Did you tear the extra muscle?
Right
or,
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I went to John at the time, and he was like, unless you're in bodybuilding or something, he's like, I wouldn't recommend a surgery. He akined it to when you tear that muscle, it's like trying to attach two ends of a mop to try to fix it back. And I still have a divot there, but over time, the strength's built back. In fact, the last 2 months ago and the month before, I tied my all-time bench press PR, all time, from even when I was in my 40s. So, I mean, I built the strength back. That's the only injury I've had. And just like you said, though, it's ego.
You shouldn't have been getting on there anyway.
People come to weld that, and then but other people, they come in and they look at the guy next to him and they're like, oh, I was going to do 75 pounds, but I decided he's doing 135. I'm going to do that. And good coaching helps, but also just checking your ego at the door, and that's where you see the injuries. I mean, I know Ken and Tom, y'all talked about this on their podcast, but the whole National Strength and Conditioning Association, the whole made-up thing, and the made-up stories and studies about injuries, and the whole lawsuit that came out of that. We were in the middle with Greg Glassman at the time that lawsuit was going, because we had all become really close with him. We were going out to California a lot, and I just got to hear, and as a lawyer, I got to talk to the lawyers who were working that case, and it just astounding. The lies, and they even got sanctioned by the court because they were hiding evidence, destroying evidence. That set up a framework that has been hard to get over for CrossFit ever since.
Well, I mean, that's just something new that come along, that these are all movements that we've been using for centuries, right? It's not like these are movements that are created in some kind of fad, but it come along and they're like, oh shit, this is stuff that's actually working. This is a problem for us. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And, and you started to see it working its way into high schools and colleges, and those strength and conditioning coaches that were certified through that entity didn't like it, didn't want it. But look, I mean, I know you have. I can tell just from your build. I've tried everything out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I used to run till my legs fall off. I've done weights. I did martial arts for a long time. We can talk about that in a minute. But I mean, from middle of high school all the way up till I was in my late 20s. I was in the middle of martial arts, and then my son started when he was young, and I got back into it, doing a lot of sparring and stuff. But none of it compared to the overall fitness of what I get from CrossFit. So I'm a believer. I'm sold. I'm a Greg Glassman disciple. I love Greg. I akin it when you're around him. It's like sitting there with Yoda.
Yeah.
When you look at Yoda, he doesn't look like much, and Greg doesn't look greatly fit or any of that, and he's not these days. But the guy is just so smart, and what he knows, and it's not just about CrossFit. He can study a topic and he'll learn it backwards and forwards, and he'll know it. So, I'll push CrossFit, and I always do.
Yeah, it's funny, and I mean, people, I don't know, they're just scared of the word, right? I mean, you can call it functional fitness. I mean, because it is. There's multiple ways you can label it. It's funny you had that. I had a similar tear. I had a pectin, but I detached pec tendon. I detached my pec tendon.
Yeah. So did you have to have that attached?
Yeah. But I still have a divot in my pec, and then that tendon, basically they had to take it and pin it back under my bicep muscle to the bone,
right,
and then take sutures and wrap it around there.
Right.
But and I did that because I was lifting too heavy. And I was flat bench. Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. There's no reason for me to do it. Did it. But most of those injuries, that's always the case. It's either bad form, bad coaching, overwork, or ego.
Right.
And all those things, all comes down to body awareness.
What I laugh about is how many people who CrossFit hard and they get injured outside of the gym.
Oh, dude, I know they're stepping off a step or some shit.
He's coming in with a foot in a boot. What'd you do? Did you hurt yourself in the workout? No, I tripped on a wheel stop.
Yeah.
So it's it's a bad misnomer, and a lot of us try to really educate people on it.
Yeah.
And I believe the ads that what do they say? CrossFit isn't for everybody, but it's for anybody. In other words, it is for anybody. Not everybody will want to do it. Not everybody will love it. But anybody can. I mean, we've had. I mean, Tom's mom goes to CrossFit.
Yeah, he said that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's late 70s.
Yeah.
Now she's scaling, but it's still CrossFit. It's still
It's the same movements.
Yeah, and so I think it is for everybody. Now, one of the things I talk about is, and I tell people that, it's like, man, even like, okay, so when I got my pec tear, I never missed a day in the gym.
Yeah. You just
never missed.
You just alter your workout.
I just alter my workout.
That's what I did too. I was down for 8-9 months, and I couldn't even raise my, because it was so tight, right? And I had to get that flexibility back. I couldn't even raise my arm up with like a 5-pound dumbbell, because back then I was still like bro lifting.
Right.
So like I was just doing stuff with a weighted vest on. I was doing stuff with legs. I was working out legs like 4 times a week.
Right. Yeah. But that's why I tell people, it's like, here's the thing about CrossFit. It hurts if you're doing it right. It hurts.
Oh, yeah.
It hurts in here. Your lungs. You're burning your lungs.
Ooh.
You're pushing yourself. And what happens is when you quit going to the gym and you quit doing that, it gets really easy, really quick not to go. Mm-hmm. And then you revert maybe back to what I call the Globo gym, right? Getting on the elliptical, and you'll sweat some, but your heart doesn't feel like it's coming out of your chest. And so when you get away from that hardness of the workout, it's just so much easier to go and do something easier. And I've seen so many people who just get a minor injury and they're like, I'm just going to take 2 weeks off, and you never see them again.
Yeah.
And I just feel like a lot of people, and I say this all the time, a lot of people just don't want to work that hard.
No, they don't. I mean, dude, it's a clinic. If you're doing any type of decent we're doing Mayhem right now, and we're doing program religiously every day. So We just started it back up. I had like a hand injury. It wasn't due to CrossFit. It's messing around. And so we just started that back up pretty hot and heavy in the past 3 weeks.
Right.
And every single day is horrible.
Yeah.
But when you're done, you're so fulfilled, right? I mean, it sucks. But in doing it with a group of people helps too. Because these solo athletes, when I say that, I mean, CrossFit is a solo. I mean, you are doing it. Everyone's different. But doing it with a group of individuals where you can all push each other makes it so much more fulfilling, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can push people to exceed new goals, or that person who wants to give up back there, you can get 5 more reps out of them when they wanted to stop 10 reps ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I won't say where. I always have a backup gym because of my job, and sometimes I had to work late or whatever. So for a while, my backup gym was just a local Globo gym.
Right.
And sometimes I would go there on Sundays, or we host L1s a lot, so sometimes the weekends are completely taken up at our gym. And it's just so hard to go back into that culture and where nobody's talking to each other. Everybody's got on their own headphones.
I've been out of that culture now what's funny is I talked shit to my wife for the first year we were together because she was trying to get me to come do these things. I was like, I'm not doing that shit. I'm not doing that shit. I'm just going to lift. And I mean, granted, I wasn't doing bodybuilding working. I wasn't, I just was lifting heavy and just bro lifting, but I was always on a detailed, like some type of plan, for myself, and then when I finally got into it, dude, it like to kill me. It like to kill me for the first 6 or 7 months. It felt, it was on another level. Like it was like fight training paired with weight training. Like I couldn't explain it to anyone, but like I couldn't even imagine going back to that lifestyle because I'm dreading going on vacation because I'm not going to go spend hundreds of dollars to go to someone's CrossFit gym and try to cater to their class times. Right. So I know I'm going to have to like get up and run and then I'm going to probably take we usually take dumbbells with us. Like I'll take some 55s and I can just kill myself with those in some running, so at least try to get some of that.
Right. Yeah. I've been in it so long that I just can't even fathom, going back to that. And, when I do work out by myself, it's just not the same. I mean, it's a rare person. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that you don't work out as hard by yourself. Matt Fraser's a perfect example. Yeah. I mean, he could push himself hard enough by himself, but it takes a rare kind of person to push themselves hard enough. And I know that what I do when I work out by myself, I'm just not pushing as hard. And what's neat about where we work out, one day, I don't know, out of a wild hair, we started writing on the whiteboard how many members we had over 50. And I mean, it was almost 30.
Damn.
And so having guys our age, Tom and Ken, I mean, every workout, I look at how Ken did and I compare myself to how he did, and having guys like that, some really fit 40-year-olds, one of my buddies, Aaron Smith, is 45, and I mean, he is a monster. He's fit as he can be. And so you have those people that that are close to you in age, and you're able to try to feed off each other. But there's just, it just takes a rare person who can work out that hard by themselves. And it's, I've looked at other stuff, kind of talking about the martial arts. A couple months ago, I was like, I have all this experience and I'm not using it. I hadn't, I used to box when I was a kid. I used to go to the Irish McNeil's gym out there on the. I was like maybe one or two white kids out there boxing. Yeah. And then that moved into martial arts in high school. But I got in touch with the guys at the compound, and I just wanted to do some bag work. Right. But it's going to take a while. Oh, so you're back doing that a little bit? A little bit. Yeah. My flexibility in my legs is just gone.
Dude, it's different.
Because I did Taekwondo for a long time, so I got really flexible.
So you were doing competitive Taekwondo. How long did you do that? Or what year? I guess what age did you start?
I started like my sophomore year in high school. Okay. And then
This was in what year was that?
So that would have been 84.
Okay, so that's when.
So I actually went to the Olympic trials in Miami when the year that Taekwondo became an Olympic sport. Okay. I actually qualified for the Olympic trials, and went down there and got my butt kicked first round.
Holy shit! Hey, still you went.
So you had to place in a state tournament in order to go, and this was when I was in college. So I got third in my division in Louisiana, but then I was also in college in Tennessee, and I won my division in college in Tennessee.
Okay.
So myself and Robbie Wise, I don't know if you know Robbie, he's a doctor here. He and I came up together in Taekwondo. We both went. Our instructor was Philip Tompkins. He's still around.
Oh, Philip.
Yeah, you know Philip.
Yeah.
I mean, Philip promoted me to black. I was his first black belt. Promoted Robbie to black belt. And so, yeah, that was a fun time. I mean, you know, Olympic Taekwondo was coming into the Olympics, and so it was a big deal. We went down to Miami, and we both lost first round, but the talent was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then in college I taught. I started a Taekwondo program in the basement of my dorm.
Okay, cool.
And then eventually moved it into the gym sports complex. I was at Rhodes College in Memphis, and then I eventually got it where it was PE credit.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I did that for 3.5 years. I mean, like what most people get a job waiting tables or stuff. That's what I did.
That's what you did for your
And I made pretty decent money, for college. $25 a month, no contracts, and just all my fraternity brothers started coming in, and just we had a good time. We fought in went to the collegiate nationals every year. I had some of my guys that were green belts and blue belts. It was essentially black belt only or no belt.
Right.
And so I had some guys that were green belts and blue belts. I was putting red belts on, which is in karate is equivalent of a brown belt, and letting them fight. And so we had a good time doing it.
Hell yeah, dude. That's a good basis for anything, though. I think discipline wise, and this is my guess, because I don't think I'd be able to be so self-disciplined in the sport of what we do now if I had not had a past martial arts training. Right. And I would probably say the same for you. Like it's something that I don't know. It's just there's so much self-discipline in that sport. Right. You know what I mean?
So when we first started with Philip, we were downtown on Milam Street, right next to the Crestwell Hotel, which is a rough spot.
Right.
But eventually, especially when I was late in high school, he knew he could trust me, and so I had a key to the gym. And I remember many weekend nights when lots of guys were going out, and I just was done going out, and I'd go down there and kick the lights on and work out. But it's downtown, so I'd have friends who were coming out of the bars downtown would see me in there and stop and come in, talk, and we'd be sitting there shooting the bulb, and I'd just be in there working on the heavy bag. But yeah, it was, if people who know me will tell you, when I get into something, I really get into it. And so that was my life for most of high school. I mean, I got my black belt before I left for college. Eventually got my second degree while I was in college. Did the teaching thing, did the competing deal. And it seems like everything I get into, I compete. I competed in CrossFit for 7 years.
So you're not doing competitions anymore?
Ken talked me into doing Coles at No Ceilings this last one.
Oh, how'd it go? He was talking about doing it, and that was like a couple weeks ago.
It was good. We didn't finish last.
Well, there you go.
I mean,
was it just RX? Like it was just
it was just RX, and I mean, we were by far the oldest guys in there. So.
And it was team, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was
team.
That's why we were not here that weekend, and also I think we had an event we had to do, but my wife didn't have anyone she could team up with, and I didn't really have anyone that I don't think I had anyone lined up. But either way, we wanted to do it. We ended up doing it.
It was good. It was good competition. They had a great final. They the guy's name is Trey Rogers with Landers Dodge. He works at his dad. General manager.
Yeah.
They had some trucks out there and did a truck pull for the finals.
Okay, cool.
It was pretty cool. But that was the first time I've competed in at least 4 years, except for the Open. Still did well in the Open this year, though. I mean, I finished 5% and after the Open in my age group. So,
dude, I got my ass kicked in the Open this year because of the muscle ups. I still can't string those together.
Yeah.
I'm still chicken winging it up. I'm working on that. But the past couple of years we've done decent.
Well, that's just form. I mean, you really got the strength for it.
Yeah, it's just my flexibility, my form, man. My shoulders do not like that movement. But I'm getting there, dude. I'm slowly getting there. That's one thing that most people don't understand is you can always get better at everything. In that sport. Like it's not like you reach a peak and you're like, okay, even with fighting, you reach a peak to where like you're badass, right? You're badass. Someone can come along and kick your ass because they have a different style, or they can find a chink in the armor. But with this stuff, dude, there's always something you can be better at. Like right now, rope. I'm just trying to get better at rope climb where I can string more than 5 of those together without killing, dying, and just trying to nitpick little things like the muscle ups, and I can't do a handstand walk yet. I'm not that amazing.
I
yet,
gave up on that. I tried for a long time. Some of my younger guys, and I do all those drills against the wall where you could fall against the wall, and I just we didn't have really good gymnastics mats there. And I was worried. We've got the hard rubber.
Yeah, that's what we have too. Yeah.
So worried about falling and hitting a collarbone or shoulder and putting me out. But no, when I tell people in CrossFit, especially as they're starting to kind of really get into it and they're working on all the differences, it's like there's so many things to work on that when you focus on these 5 things, you're leaving out these 5 or 10 things over here. So if you're focusing on rope climbs, handstand push-ups, bar muscle ups, maybe that kind of stuff. Well, now you haven't been working on your double unders and your snatches and your overhead squats and your
overhead squats.
Just a lot of other skill stuff. And that's what's kept me coming back for so many years is that, the constantly varied is great physically, but it's also great mentally because, and again, for people who haven't experienced CrossFit, I tell people, especially when they're new, you just have to walk in here. All you got to do is show up. And a lot of the stuff is done for you. In other words, you don't have to figure out what you're going to do. You're going to be in and out of there in an hour.
Yeah.
And you just follow the program and do the work and then let the results occur. But being constantly varied keeps it fresh and new, and and then you don't have to sit there and try to figure out, am I going to do, chest today and arms today or whatever. So it's for people who haven't done it, I really try to tell them, look, you'll walk in 5 minutes before class starts. They'll warm you up. You'll work out and you'll be done in an hour. Yeah. And if you just keep showing up, the results will occur.
Yeah, it's be ready to die.
Yeah. Well, that's what you said, something about being tired or sore for a while. That's what I try. What I try to do when I see new people in there, and I want to encourage them, but I also try to kind of just pull them aside and help them through. And that's what I tell them. I say, you are going to be sore almost every day for the first 3 months or so.
Dude, yeah, I'm sore every day still the rest of my life. I pick a topic, you know what I mean? Right now it's the top part of my chest is sore right now, whatever, I don't know.
But I tell them it's like it's not going to go away soon, so you just got to keep coming. Yeah. You got to keep showing up, and you don't have to do it every day. 3 days a week is plenty at first, and we had an older guy come in not long ago, and now that I'm talking about him, I haven't seen him in a while. Now I go at night, so it's almost like the people go in the morning is a whole different world.
Yeah, I'm evening too. Yeah, I can do morning. I do a Saturday morning.
Yeah, I'll do like a 9 or 10. Yeah, not that 5 a.m.
No, I can't do that 5 a.m. shit, man. No. Not and get the results that I do. Right. At 5 p.m.
Well, and so I was telling him, talking to him, and he was like, well, how many days a week do you come? And I said, well, I'm here 5 or 6 days a week, and I'm in the gym almost 7 days a week if I'm but not CrossFitting. That 7th day I'll just do accessory stuff or whatever. And then he just had this look on his face. I was like, look, it took a long time for me to get to 5 days a week. And so I just try to tell people, it's just a process, and don't let the new folks get so overwhelmed. It's like I kind of regret he even asked me, because you don't need to focus on that. Again, that's back to the ego thing, right? You got to focus on what you can do.
Yeah, you're looking at that. You're already creating an excuse in your head. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing.
Or getting intimidated for no reason.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're already like, okay, well, this is no, I'm not signing up for this because I can't make that. commitment. Or, you know, that's the biggest thing. People's like, I don't have time. I don't want to hear that shit, man. I don't want to hear that shit. I watch people drag their kids in there. I've heard every excuse in the book.
Right.
People, if you want to go, you'll go.
Right.
If you want to really see results, you will make the change. You will figure it out. Everyone has shit going on. You're not the only person that might have 3 kids and 2 jobs. I mean, everybody's got shit going on. You know what I mean? So
well, and it was the same way when I started. My kids were young, and so I would go mornings. I was doing the mornings because my kids went to bed early, so I could go to bed early. I was doing the mornings 3 days a week, and then at lunch other days a week.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's many a morning at 4:40 when that alarm clock would go off.
Oh man,
when I was
so
like,
bad.
And it's funny. All I would think about was how I felt when I walked out of that gym. That's what got me out of bed.
Dude, I've never really thought about that, but there's been many a times when I would pull up to the fight gym. It was the worst. I guess I was working the oil field full time and trying to fight train and cutting weight all the time. Mm-hmm. I would pull up to that gym and I would sit there and be like, fuck, I really don't want to go in here. And then every time you come out of it, you feel so much better.
How long did you do that?
My first fight was in 2011, maybe. Yeah, look, 2011. I think my last one was 2018.
Wow, that's a long.
But it was always for hobby. It was never full time. Like I would do it and get after it for a year, and then I'd slack off and just do weights and be drinking and stuff for 6 or 8 months. And I get back in. Then I go to fights and somebody or one of my friends would get back into it, and I get hyped back up. I'm like, oh shit, they're winning. I got to watch them. And I would go back to the gym and start training again. And I'd have 1 or 2 fights and I'd fall off again. But this has been consistent for me now for 3 years. But I think really since y'all's event so late in the year, I'm actually kind of in the mindset to already start competing this season. Right, so I'll probably get the wife and we'll start chasing some competitions here regionally, hopefully, you know. I don't care to win anything. I just want to I want to go get my ass kicked. Yeah. I love that shit. Like I know I'm always going to be towards the bottom because there's athletes that like I fought intermediate or really lower level RX, so like most of the time intermediate, and those people at their peaks just smoke me and everything. Right. Mostly the stuff that's like movement, right. You know, not so much weights. Weights I can hold my own pretty much on every movement, you know, but as far as like
heavy cardio,
just bar work and heavy cardio, that's where they get me, dude, because I'm just not like you said, my build, like I can run, and I can run. Yesterday, the first part of our WOD, we had a 30-minute AMRAP, and the first part of it was 2 miles, right. And I did it fine, but I was probably 5 minutes behind, you know, my wife and another guy and another guy, you know.
It's funny we were talking about fighting. You know, I did point sparring, regular old point sparring.
Yeah.
Then did Olympic Taekwondo, which, you know, it's pretty rough. I mean, you don't punch to the face, but full contact kick to the face. And,
I mean, dude, kicks are way harder than punches. I mean, But
I tell you, I kickboxed for about 4 months.
Okay.
One summer with some guys, and it's funny, as I got older, when I was young, I boxed, but my nose wasn't as much bone and as hard as it is right now and as big as it is. That I learned quick that kickboxing was not for me.
Yeah.
I mean, this nose does not hold up to straight rights and a hard jab, and so after about 4 months and my nose being constantly sore, like I could never do MMA.
Yeah, dude, my shit's been busted a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny, your face starts building a callus. I know it's so crazy to say, but you really do. Like you're black and blue, even from jiu-jitsu and wrestling and grappling and sparring and everything. You're black and blue for like the first 6 months, and then eventually you just don't get bruises anymore. It's fucking weird. Right. Like that's you can get in there and spar and beat the shit out of each other and come out and you don't even have a black eye or nothing. I guess you just get used to taking the blows,
your face
just like anything else.
You're getting used to it. Yeah, and I mean, we get hit. I got hit one time in the jaw that I couldn't close my mouth all the way for like. And that was a point sparring deal. It was a black belt deal though in Memphis, and a guy hit me with a ridge hand right here, and I mean I couldn't close my mouth fully for probably 2 or 3 weeks. And I broke my nose a couple times, but not in martial arts. I played sandlot football and I played some high school basketball, but it would not stand up to that kind of beating, so I had to change gears.
Yeah, man. It's for me, it was just something I thought was cool at first, and I was bad about getting in fights at bars and trying to be the tough guy. Or really, I just went out looking for dumb shit all the time, and that kind of leveled me out a little bit because there was always somebody that could kick my ass every day. When I walked in there was always somebody in there that whooped my ass. So that helped a lot, but also gave me a newfound respect where I can like walk in a room and be like, man, dude, I don't need to, I don't need to go there. And if I do, it's going to be, I know what the consequences are also, it's one of those things. But now I'm just glad I kept the discipline from those types of camps, I guess, like the weight cutting and the constant regimen of, making sure you eat this and get this amount of sleep and body awareness.
The weight cutting would be just exhausting.
Yeah, it sucks. And I always thought, I want to say, now that you said that, Josh, I think I started training in 2009, but my first actual MMA fight would have been 11, but I had some boxing matches before then. But I want to say I started training, I was off for a good 3 or 4 years. No, I was off for 5 years where I didn't fight. And I was just lifting and being a bachelor. And I came back when a friend of mine died, and I cut weight. I was stupid. I should have fought at 205, but I thought I needed to fight at 185 because that's what I used to fight at 6 years prior. But I've gained a lot of muscle since then because all I've been doing is lifting since then. So I cut weight from 230 to 185 in 3 months.
Wow.
And it almost killed me because I was in like training camp every single day, and I was constantly cutting weight. I was never like, it wasn't like an 8-week weight cut. It was a 3-month progressive weight cut to get to fight weight, and I should have set my fight weight at 205. And by the time that last fight came around, dude, I was so exhausted walking out there. Like I was already beat. Like I got caught in a triangle on the ground, and I could tell you honestly that I felt so depleted in that fight that I wouldn't have had a chance. I mean, caught the guy. If I got on top of him, was trying to finish him, and had he not caught me in a triangle, I probably would have maybe who knows. But I was so depleted going into that fight, I never should have fought it that way. And that just goes back to body awareness, knowing what your limits are, but I'd already set that at, I'm going to fight that weight. In my head, I thought I needed to be back at that weight. It's stupid,
When we would fight those collegiate tournaments, it was down to the 1/10 of a pound, the weight classes. And he figured trying to make weight when you're in college, that was not easy.
Yeah, you're drinking beer every day.
That's right. So, and then I have some friends who bodybuild, and I've watched them go through that. And I mean, it's, that's just brutal. And I think over time it catches up with your body. I mean, we're just not made to cut weight like that. We're not made to starve ourselves.
Well, and that's another thing with fighting too. They pretty much got a hold on it with, Dolce was probably the first proponent of that, was showing people how to, water load and cut right. And it's transitioned in bodybuilding too, where they found healthier ways. But bodybuilding is the worst because you're doing it for aesthetics.
Right.
So you want to get down the lowest body fat as possible. Right. Whereas in fighting, you're just trying to be the heaviest small guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that mindset's really changed. There's been a lot of fighters that really don't cut that much weight that are great, Right. I think Demetrius Johnson, will you look that up, Josh? Demetrius Johnson, I believe he doesn't, I want to say Mighty Mouse. I want to say he doesn't even cut any weight. I think he stays right around his fight weight, and he's probably one of the greatest of all time.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's really, looking back, I wish I would have not cut so much weight all the time. But it also, you have to think about it. If you go way far and get out of shape,
right,
and then you have to bring yourself back in, then that's a different conversation. Right. But if you're staying in shape around the same, weight all the time, you're not having to cut 20 or 30 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just so hard on your body, and I don't know. It's different, obviously, for bodybuilders because, but you've seen the scenes where guys faint, pass out, backstage because they're so malnourished, they're so dehydrated, but all they got to do is get out there for that one flexing session and make it through that. But what you're talking about is cutting a ton of weight and then also going 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 rounds and having to go full steam the whole time. Right, because
you got 24 hours to gain that weight back, but you're not gaining back all the what came with cutting all that weight, right?
And then you're exhausted and so
there's a lot to that.
That's another one of my things where since I lost all that weight, it was so funny. I had so many people ask me, how'd you do it? That I got to the point where I got tired of telling the story, and I wrote it down. I have this thing called my manifesto.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's about 2 or 3 pages. It has ideas of things I did, ways to eat at fast food restaurants. I have a whole little section about that in terms of, if you're stuck at a fast food restaurant, what do you do? What do you eat? people may look at you funny, but you just eat the chicken breast out of the chicken sandwich.
Right, yeah.
You know, things like that, or just eat the burger patty, you know, not the bread, not the fries. But, you know, mine took 2 years. I mean, because I did it in a very natural way. I did not follow a quote-unquote diet. I bought this book called the Eat Clean Diet Book. You know Blake DeFatta? You know Blake? He's a personal trainer, a good friend of mine.
I might know if I saw him, but not by name.
And he helped me out a lot. And Blake and I have been friends for a long time. But I lost like 15 to 20 pounds, and I was just starving myself to death.
Yeah.
You know, and then I plateaued. And, you know, what's funny to me, sometimes guys are like, oh, I just need to lose about 10 or 15 pounds. And I look at them, I'm like, no, dude, you need to lose like 40.
Right.
You know, I thought I only needed to lose 10 or 15. And when I lost it, I looked at myself and I was like,
I don't look any different.
Oh, not even close.
Yeah.
And so that's when I went, and I'd plateaued. So I went to Blake and I was like, I need some food counseling. I said, I'm going to pay you an hour a week, not to personal train me, but to food counsel.
Right.
And he got me on that book. And all it is it teaches you how to eat clean. Teaches you how to eat the stuff that's on the outside of the grocery store, and don't eat anything that's on the inside.
Yeah.
So it's that simple. And, you know, but it took time. You know, I wasn't dropping 10 pounds a week. You know, don't even get me on this whole Moderna shot and all this. I mean, it's you know, because I did the slow, you know, and I guess the point is, and like you go back to discipline. I learned the discipline in the martial arts. I learned discipline in CrossFit. You know, through my legal practice. You know, here I am, over 10 years later since I lost the weight, but let's add 2 years to that since I started the process, and my weight's still off.
Yeah.
Because I learned how to eat. I learned how to mix eating and exercise. And that's what I really push with older guys is, you know, everybody says you can't out exercise a bad diet, but that goes doubly when you're over 40.
Yeah, you have to, like, I have this conversation with people all the time. And, like, you have to, it's all about what you eat. You just got to eat and move.
Right.
Like, eat right, move. What was it Demetrius Johnson?
Mike Mills, he only cuts 15 pounds.
Right. So he only cuts 15.
So
you have a lot of people that cut 40, 50 pounds. So, yeah, he still cuts some weight, but he's only, you know, he's one of the ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Walks around at 150.
So how old are you though?
I'll be 35 this year, so I'm still young. But like,
I'll tell you, it's crazy, and I never would have thought it. But that 40 is almost like a light switch.
Well, I've been feeling it for the past couple of years already, just because like abusing like testosterone at an early age and stuff like that. So now I'm on TRT at 35 years old, like having to take like a half a C a week just to keep my levels at normal, right? And I'm pretty strict about my diet and stuff, but I'll notice I've noticed it significantly since I was probably about 3 or 4 years now. Right over 30.
Well, when I say it's a switch, what I mean is, you know, you don't fall off the wagon and can't be fit. But what happens is metabolism really slows down, and so when you gain that 5 pounds at Christmas, say, it takes a lot longer to get it off than it used to.
Right.
And so when I was losing that weight at 43 to 45, it was a struggle. But I don't know. That's just a big thing for me. When I see people losing weight, I remember how it made me feel when people would say, "Man, you've lost weight. How much weight have you lost?" I had a law partner who just went through it. I mean, he and I went to law school together. He's dropped 50 plus pounds, and everybody's saying the same thing to him. You know. Ironically, though, he's also the same guy who told me he was never going to do CrossFit, and now he CrossFits with me. So, and if I had $1 for everybody who said that, I might be a rich man. But,
oh yeah, I try to get. It's like a cult. I try to get everyone to come, but I just because I want them to feel what I feel. You know, it's not because I want them to hurt themselves or do things that they maybe make them uncomfortable. But even like if you just I've had a million questions about diets over the years because I've been into all these things, and I'll get, you know, a little heavy and then come back and try to be shredded or whatever, you know. But like what I tell everyone all the time is most of the time is you have to. The first thing I tell everyone to cut out any type of soft drinks, any type of refined sugar drinks, because like 9 times out of 10, those people asking you questions, they all drink that shit every day. Whether it's a coffee full of sugar, I gotta have my Diet Coke or whatever the fuck, which is still pure chemicals, or I mean, it's bad enough. Look, we can't avoid everything. You can nitpick everything. People get in arguments saying, well, your water's got chlorine. Look, yeah, we can't avoid everything, but strip away the shit we know's bad.
Right.
But I always tell them first, cut out the soft drinks, and then next, the hardest thing is cutting out fried foods.
Yeah.
Not even fast foods as much as fried food. If you can cut out, I mean, because most of fast food is fried food, but if you can cut those two things out, significantly, it makes a huge difference. And then you start ironing out, okay, well, do I need to get away from gluten and these things? And that's always been my advice to people. But that's been anybody I've ever talked to, those have been the hardest things for people to let go of.
Right.
The hardest.
Well, I started, when Ken started doing keto, I started doing keto. Before that, when I lost all the weight, I was just eating clean, but I was limiting my carbs. And my carbs were fresh carbs. In other words, they weren't processed carbs.
Like vegetables and stuff.
Yeah, vegetables, potatoes, a little bit of rice, Ezekiel bread. I don't know if you ever had.
No, I used to eat. When I went gluten free exclusively like 10 years ago, I that shit saved me for a little while.
That stuff is good. So, but what I tell a lot of folks is just cut back on first and foremost, sugar.
Yeah.
Refined sugar, and that's everything pretty much everything except for fruit, and you should still limit fruit to some degree. But then I tell them to cut back on junk carbs, and so whatever that might be, it's the bun on your burger. Back years ago, I used to eat sandwiches at lunch every day. I'd go to
it's so bad for you.
And
the Quiznos or whatever. All that shit's horrible for you.
I quit doing that. Everything that comes in a bag, and I tell people everything that comes in a bag or a box that's in a grocery store, you need to get rid of it. You need to stop eating it. First of all, it's processed crap.
Yeah.
And second of all, it's processed and refined carbohydrates. What I tell people is a refined carbohydrate is packing as much carb into a small amount of flour as possible. And the example I use is that Crystal Light. You take a little thing of Crystal Light this big, and it will make over a gallon of extremely sweet drink. Okay, well, refined carbs are the same way. You take a little bit of carbs like that in a set of like a bag of pretzels, but they're trying to pack as many carbs into that refined flour as they can. Yeah. And so, and then of course the packaging is so misleading. So you get people who don't really know what they're doing, and they're going and they're saying, oh, this says it's multigrain or this, and it's all processed junk. At least in a regular grocery store. Yeah. So that's one of the biggest things I push people away from is no sugar, and stop eating from the center of the grocery store and literally go around the outside. Meat, fish, chicken, turkey, cheese. You can have cheese, vegetables,
eggs.
Yeah, eggs. I mean,
I have this conversation with the kids a lot. I'm trying to educate them constantly, but like, also, for example, I'll be like, look, you just had that whole thing in a Mexican restaurant of chips, right? You had that whole thing. You're still hungry. If I were to take that corn that was made those tortillas and I didn't put it in the fryer, you probably would have only been able to have 2 tortillas.
Right.
But basically, you've taken something that's already processed and then you dumped it into oil to fry it, to minimize it so you could eat more of it. It doesn't make any. We're just constantly over consuming when we don't need to.
Right.
And so I try to explain it to him. I was like, that didn't fill you up, but watch, I'm going to give you a half of a chicken breast.
Right.
And you're going to be so full. You're going to be, oh my God, I'm so full. Like it's the weirdest thing that we do. Like we have to produce more and more of something so people keep eating it, but it really doesn't.
Well, so my wife loves Mexican food.
Right.
So we eat Mexican probably once a week, sometimes more than that. And so what I also try to help people with is tricks on how you eat fast food. But one of the things I also tell people, like what I do when we get to a Mexican restaurant, as soon as I sit down, a lot of times I'll order a salad or ceviche, which is the
ceviche's
fish.
Great, yeah.
So that while everybody else is chowing down on those chips, I've got something to eat.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll just sit there and I'll eat the salsa with a spoon.
Yeah.
Because really, what is the combination there that tastes the best?
Oh, it's the salsa.
It's the
salsa,
sure. Yeah, right.
Sure.
So what I do is I'll order something immediately. Should be like, what do you want to drink? I want an iced tea, unsweet tea, and I want a salad.
Yeah.
And that way, while everybody's eating those chips, I've got something to eat.
Yeah.
Or I might have 2 chips to get it out of my system.
I'll do that sometimes.
And many a time I have a bunch of guys that, in fact, we have all these guys went to high school together. We eat lunch almost every Thursday together at a Mexican restaurant. I'm over there eating salsa with my spoon, you know, catching a bunch of hell for it. But you got to find those little things that work, you know, and then you got to be disciplined about them.
Yeah, it's important.
You can't just eat what everybody else is around you.
Well, I mean, and some people can eat whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
But there's those of us who know that I can't do that.
Right.
We just had lunch before this. We just had lunch down here, and I just go there and get fajitas. We just eat the meat. You know, I eat a little bit of beans and some meat.
Right.
And we were walking back. It's just like I can't eat anything bad. Like I can't eat whatever I want.
I mean, my regular lunch pickup downtown is 2 or 3 helpings of chicken salad from Rhino Coffee downtown. I mean, that's all I get. Just, in fact, when they went to a new app, I know the owner, and I'm like, "Where's the a la carte? You didn't put it on the app." He's like, "Oh, it's coming." Because I mean, that's what I'll do is I'll go there and just get 3 helpings of chicken salad. They put it in a container, and that's what I eat.
Yeah, and that's just protein and fat.
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
So now I'm kind of like, I'm not where Tom is, but I'm about 80% carnivore, and I eat some vegetables. And then I've went hard carnivore. I keep going back to using fruit as my carbs, right?
And I love it. So I'm just staying there, and I'm just staying. I'm like 80% meat, 20% fruit. Like I ride the lightning.
If it does, and it doesn't put weight on you, and it
works for me. It makes me efficient. I don't, you get the carb, and you get the sugars you are getting is attached to fiber, so it's processing quick.
Some people are like that. Like, I mean, Ken works really hard, but he is, he's a low body fat individual,
right?
You know. If I go on vacation, and I eat what I want, I'm going to gain 5 to 10 pounds.
Oh, I know.
It's just how my body works.
Me too. It
just packs on so fast.
Me too.
You know,
I'm getting ready for it in 2 weeks. I'm probably going to happen.
Super low fat guy, you know, and so, you know, you just have to figure out what kind of person what kind of body you have, and try to make it work. And if eating fruit is not affecting you, then hey, you know, that's great.
Yeah, no, that's my go-to, man. It works time after time. Like, there's only certain things I like though. Like I'll eat strawberries, blueberries, pineapple, grapes, and orange juice, fresh orange juice. Those are about the only things, and fresh grapefruit. That's about all I eat. Like, I don't really fuck with bananas much, or mango, or cantaloupes, or none of that stuff. No watermelon. Those are just pretty much all I'll do. But that paired with, I do like a lot of red meat. A lot of people have something to say about that, but I love it.
I eat a lot of red meat.
I eat a lot of pork. A lot of people have something to say about that, but it works great for me.
Yeah.
I'll do, a lot of pork shoulder, pork roast, pork loin, and then a lot of fatty red steak like ribeyes, I'll do fillets too. And then I just get so burnt out on chicken breast. But I feel like if you're and I do minimal fish, man. I don't know, I get burnt out on fish. I can do a lot of shrimp.
Yeah, I like shrimp. I don't eat a ton of fish. Salmon is
salmon. Salmon and mahi's kind of my go-to if I'm gonna eat fish.
And then I eat a lot of red meat. I eat a decent amount of chicken. Pork chops, the boneless pork chops just cooked in the oven are good, easy. My dinner most nights is it's just going to be basically some sort of meat or chicken, and then a lot of times just vegetables on a cookie sheet.
Gotcha.
Cut up, broccoli and cauliflower, or and just stick it in the oven and cook it. Put a bunch of spices on it, and that's usually. And I'm somewhat on an intermittent fasting. I don't eat after about 8 o'clock, and I don't eat breakfast, and I don't eat till lunch.
Do you drink any alcohol?
Yeah.
Me too. That's my vice, bro. It's like, I'm never going to look like a Greek god because tequila.
Well, and so, COVID ruined me. I think before COVID, I was, I drink a little bit of wine 2 or 3 nights a week. And then when COVID hit, and I was grilling every night, we were working from our office. We were just kind of staying away from each other, but I tried. Working at home lasted 2 days for me.
Yeah.
I just was not efficient enough. And so, but I'd grill every night, and then started, having a glass of wine. And so, I need, that's where a decent amount of my calories come from, unfortunately.
Same here, man. I'm the first to admit it, but I try to scale it back to, as much as possible. But, I'm still not drinking like super, like if I'm drinking it, I have a tequila, but I'll make like a ranch water with a Topo Chico and lime juice. I'm not drinking superior margaritas.
Right. Oh no.
No. Will I? Fuck yeah, I will. But like that's not sustainable. I can't,
I mean, I can't remember the last time I ordered a margarita or anything like that. I'll take a sip of somebody's or my wife's or something. But yeah, my alcohol is typically pretty pretty clean. It's either whiskey on the rocks, it's wine. If it's beer, it's usually the very low carb beer, and there's
Right.
a lot of great low carb beers out there. I mean, Blue Moon just came out with one, and so there's a lot of great choices out there that have flavor when it comes to beer. So again, even then, when I'm drinking it, I'm not drinking the sugary stuff. I'm not
Right.
drinking, and so again, it's just like sometimes I'll go, we'll go somewhere and I'll get an omelet and I'll say no cheese, and they'll say, but you can have cheese. I'm like, yeah, I'm just cutting the calories here and there where I can, because all that adds up, So if
Yeah.
you're going to drink alcohol, don't drink margaritas,
Right,
or don't
right.
drink Bud Heavy,
Yeah.
every night. There's some great with all the Abita beers and
Oh, there's so much stuff out there now you can have. Yeah.
But I have us at my house, but I'm only going to have one of those.
Yeah.
I'm not going to drink a bunch and pound down 800 calories worth of beer and a bunch of carbs. You got to pick and choose.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is most people, they always have a comment, or most people want to do something, but they're not willing to take that. It is a huge, it's an entire lifestyle adjustment,
Right.
and it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Now you see those success stories and they post about them and they use those for marketing ploys, where some people do take that and they run with it and it happens overnight.
I'm going to show you this. I pulled this up so I could show you.
Uh-oh, what is it?
That was me.
Your before and after?
That's my before.
Oh, that's your before. Yeah.
And then that's my after.
Yeah, you look like a completely different person.
Yeah.
Like if you were to put those two side by side,
Yeah.
I'd be like, that's not the same
Well,
person.
and so, because your point about it was lifestyle. It's like, I've seen so many friends that lose weight and that's what I'm worried about the shot. Everybody's taking this shot.
I'm worried about that shot too.
Well, I'm worried about the health effects of it, and I give my friends who take it, jokingly, I say you're an endocrine system killer. I worry what it's going to do to people's endocrine systems, but to all of the hormonal,
Well, my question is, what's it going to do about protein synthesis, and like, are we even really seeing anyone that's taking that shot and then working out like we do?
Yeah,
I'm not. Do you know anybody that does? So like, are you able to sustain protein growth? Is it kill? Like, there's been some studies. We talked about it before. Can you pull that up? The screen's not on this side. We'll turn it on. Please. There's been some studies with that where they've taken they've shown that you can sustainably still have muscle growth after taking that. But I think there was only one study, and I don't even know if that, I don't know what the peer review is or anything about it. But I'm worried about that for a lot of people, because a lot of people, you say your age, but even my age are doing it.
Right.
Specifically these middle-aged women that are just doing it for a short, just like it's the next fad. Whether it's
so
the teas before, now it's the fucking shot.
I was telling somebody the other day, I was sitting it is a terrible place to do it and say, but this was the truth. Sitting at Christmas Eve service, and I'm seeing all these people that I've known for decades are heavy. And then all of a sudden, they're not. And I'm just like sitting there in my head going, you're on the shot, you're on the shot.
Yeah, because they don't
you're on the
look.
shot.
They don't look healthy.
Right. And
like, when someone loses weight and they lose it, and you're like, wow.
Yeah. Right.
Jeff's doing really great. He looks amazing, man. What's he been doing? And then you see people like, they're on that shot.
Well, it goes so fast, then you have like excess skin.
Yeah, your body's
losing the weight quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a big dude, and I didn't have any excess skin because I lost it over time.
Right.
For me, the thing I think about this shot, and technology and science is going to be great, but in a lot of ways, it's no different than like the big kick of Ideal Protein, right? Everybody got on Ideal Protein, they lost all this weight. Well, as soon as they got on the maintenance plan, they gained it back.
Right.
And
or the Atkins diet or whatever.
Yeah, the reality of this shot is that it's not meant for long-term use. And I don't even know that there are a lot of studies out there of full doses. Now, I know there are some studies out there of low doses long-term, but
it's used to treat diabetes, right?
Yeah,
like
so when people get off of it, they're going to go right back to the problem. So they haven't fixed anything, and that's, I think our bodies are made to, you can't, the human body is very hard to trick, if at all, right?
Yeah.
And so we're trying to find this way to trick the human body.
You can't.
And that's why the human body reverts back as soon as you stop the trick.
Yeah, you're not doing any reverse genetic, like
Right.
Like anything to do, like all the way down to the gene and the structure and the cells.
So
like,
the point of it is it's your lifestyle. And if you can't, if you want that life, then you're going to have to live the lifestyle, as I start to get older, I start to look at friends of mine and I'm like, I don't know how you're going to get off the couch in another 10 or 15 years.
No shit. There's people that are my age that like are having trouble getting out of their vehicle and walking inside somewhere. And I'm just like, holy shit. Right. What did it say? Do we have any?
Essentially the issue with it is the fact that they're losing lean body mass in both fat and muscle.
Right. So like,
no way to mitigate.
But my question has there even been any studies where people are keeping their muscle mass while on it? But I mean, that's the thing. Most
is like, no, you're making.
Right.
Well, because what it's doing, the way I understand it, it's doing two things. One, it's affecting your insulin levels, and then it's also affecting, your appetite. And so if you're not, we all know this. I mean, you can't gain muscle if you're not eating. If you can't starve yourself to a muscular body.
Well, and then also most people that are taking this aren't the ones who want to build muscle. Right. They just want a quick,
right. And so
a quick
you go
weight
back
loss.
to it. So remember when Glassman, as part of CrossFit Health, was doing those videos of the old man in the living room lifting the jugs, and doing push-ups on that old ugly sofa. But you go back to that reality is that I mean, that's the whole point of a burpee for a 70-year-old person. It's getting on the ground and being able to get back up, and sitting in a chair and being able to stand up without having to have somebody pull you up or grab something.
Sit on the toilet. Like not, like
and so what's going to happen is, they may lose a bunch of weight, but they've got no muscle mass. They're not going to be able to move their bodies around efficiently when they get older. My dad's 80 and, he's in great shape. He still walks every day and works out. He was a marathoner, he ran a lot. I mean, he's always, eating well. And so it adds up, and I've watched, so here talk about old people and morbidity, but it's the reality, especially where we live, where there's so much just bad food out there to eat.
Well, then we're in the South where a lot of people are middle class labor and they work their whole life and they're just ready to retire and sit on their ass.
Right, and they're eating usually fast food, and they're eating fried food and
fried fish every Friday.
Friends, so many of them have either passed away or their last few years of their life were pretty bad because they couldn't get around. And then my parents have actually lost friends to go do stuff and travel with because they're healthy and they're actually they're more active than I think they should be at times. I mean, they pack their schedule like they're in their 20s.
My grandmother's the same way.
But they've lost people that they can travel with and do stuff with because those folks just can't get around. And, so I think about that with some of my friends and I'm like, I don't know. You're managing now, but that's because we're 55.
Yeah.
But when you're 70, is it gonna be that way?
Yeah, because like what the inside looks like all the inflammation, like the constant inflammation, like every single thing you do every single day is causing your body inflammation. And your body's trying to have to recover from that inflammation, whether it be getting drunk or not drinking enough water or not getting enough protein and getting way too much sugar, like
carbohydrates, cause the inflammation.
Yeah. I mean, so like years and years and years of doing that, why the fuck do you think you have cancer? Like it's not. Oh, this cancer is just like, I'm genetically predisposed. Yeah, you probably are. That just means you're genetically predisposed to becoming inflamed easier based on these substances.
Right. Yeah.
Like there's very few individuals I know that live the way they do, because they used to say like, oh, so-and-so smoked a pack a day and they lived till they're 100. Yeah, okay, but that's not sustainable, and that's not everyone.
And everything back then was a lot more healthy.
Right.
Even cigarettes back then didn't have as much junk
chemicals
as they have and stuff. So, or they ate fried food every day of their life, and they lived till they were 100. But the food they were eating,
they were frying food in lard, though, not.
Yeah.
Fucking machine oil.
Yeah. Corn oil and, all that stuff.
Vegetables, soybean, like
and then,
everything.
And then,
stuff you can run machinery on.
And the animals they're eating weren't full of, chemicals and all the mess that
hormones,
we're eating.
yeah.
I mean, one thing I've noticed is, and I don't have any proof of this, but this is my theory. If you look at kids these days, how much bigger framed they are than
they're
say,
large.
and I think a lot of it comes from all the chemicals and to some degree some of the steroids in all the meat they eat.
Well, it's the meat and the vegetables, right? Because you have your vegetables are just as hopped up on fucking stimulants as your meat is, because they want to produce that. You're doing that in you're factory farming everything. You're producing the same place over and over, and you're injecting them full of everything you can to make them grow quicker.
It's got to be a bell pepper this big, not a bell pepper this big. So they're trying to make everything bigger, and I think and my friends get so tired of hearing it from me, but it's just, and I catch a lot of crap about it, especially about CrossFit, but it's.
But all you're wanting to do is help people,
right?
Like me talking about it, you talking about it, us talking about it right here will be annoying to some people, and some people are like, I don't want to listen to that shit, mainly because they don't want to hear it because they feel bad and they know they're not going to do anything about it, whether it be working out, eating better, whatever, or secondly because they're not willing to take the time to even investigate. Is this something I should look into? Which is a problem, and it's so funny now. We have more access to information than we have our entire life, yet we're still quick to say, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you literally can investigate something for 5 minutes and become extremely well educated on it. Just as a topic of Ozempic or whatever it may be, like whatever data's out there, you can take all that data in a couple hours, analyze it, and formulate your own opinion. Other than just dismissing it, people don't even want to take the time to do that. They just want to dismiss it and say, well, everyone else is doing it. My doctor's writing me a script. It must be okay.
Yeah, and then it must be just like that other shot, huh? Yeah,
exactly, man. I mean, that we know. Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. It's just one of those things. Like that's something that now, insurance is approving. They make money on it, and why wouldn't they? That's what they. It's about. It's a business. At the end of the day, it's not about your health and wellness.
Cash cow.
But I mean, the thing is like, I don't know anybody who's been off of it long enough to see what happens. Yet, anyone that I've cross paths with that's on it or in the depths of it right now,
exactly. That's where we are. So I do have a physician friend, his brother's a physician, and he's been prescribing it in small doses for a while to folks, and so he's a fan of it in small doses, not these higher
Is this
doses.
for applications for diabetes specifically or just
no? There's some studies out there that say that on a small dose that your incidence of cardiac incidents go down by at least a third if you're on a smaller dose of it. At least that's how I understand the studies. But what I'm talking about is like a half of or a third of dose every 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's a fraction of what these folks who are trying to.
I don't even know what the dosage is. What's the dosage on that? Like how often are they taking these shots?
They're taking a shot once a week, and I don't know how many cc's.
How many milligrams it is per cc?
But and so I've got a friend.
Half a milligram, 1 milligram, or 2 milligram injections.
I've got a friend, a very smart physician, and so I'm just kind of watching what he's doing with it. I'm not really interested in it. Again, I mean, it's like the vaccine. I don't know that there's enough that we really know about it yet. So
that's another thing, right? There's been so many things that come out and it's also a peptide, right? It's semaglutide peptide.
Yeah.
So I believe, is it a peptide? I know it's semaglutide, or is that a form of peptide? I don't know.
Well, I think, not to get all crazy on COVID and the vaccine, but, it taught us a lot about trust or no trust in the pharmaceutical industry. And so, to just jump in and say, oh, this thing works and it's been tested, well,
what does it say?
It's going to have a lot of side effects. So
It's
polypeptide.
Yeah.
Glucogen-like peptide. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
yeah, I mean, but yeah, there's been so many things that, I mean, that stuff's coming out left and right, like these, all these things that. But that's, I mean, it's just, it's like that in any industry, in any, whether it's pharmaceutical or it's whatever.
Right.
It's the paint we used to use. Like, until you use it enough, you don't know what the side effects are.
Right.
It's just unfortunate that these people aren't going out of their way to ask the question, okay, I understand this may be prescribed to me, but should I still take it?
Right.
Or also, are there other alternatives? Biggest alternative is get your shit right first, and then if you need to take that avenue later on after you get, because I'm a fan of getting everything on point first, and then we'll talk about those other things.
So I know you've had Tom on a couple of times, and I've got a lot of friends who are doctors, but at the same time, as I've been through CrossFit, I've learned that there are tons of doctors out there who don't necessarily know what they profess to know. And Tom is a great, he calls people out on that in terms of this whole physician culture where it's all just a Band-Aid approach. I'm just going to give you a shot, or I'm going to give you a script. I'm not going to talk to you about your underlying lifestyle. I'm just going to give you this shot or this script and then let you walk on down the road. Tom, on his Instagram page, and for those listening, Tom Siskron, if you're interested, he'll go into the hospitals and take pictures of, this is supposed to be the diabetic meal.
I've seen that,
And it's 100% carbs and sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, and the fact that hospitals are getting away with that, and nobody has, and then when Tom tries to call them on it, people, try to tell him to hush up or be quiet, or, and so the same thing with a lot of these pharmaceuticals. Tom has people come in his clinic, and he's a urologist, so they're about a urology issue. And he'll start talking to them about their weight and low testosterone and comorbidities, and he's had patients cuss him out. But he's willing to go the extra mile to address the underlying problem.
Isn't that frustrating though? Me and him, we've got hyped up on it, talking about it before, like, and a lot of stuff we talked about off air too. But like, isn't it funny how like someone's coming in to visit him about their well-being and their health, and he tries to have a conversation to help them, other than just writing a prescription, and then they want to be upset at him.
They get all mad at it.
Like, it's like, what the fuck do you think he's here for? He's trying to help you.
I know. And so it just shows the mentality of people that, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who just have gotten so used to not working hard at anything, not anything, but
it's
they
true.
may work hard at their job, but they're not working hard on themselves. And so, again, I go back to the whole thing with CrossFit. A lot of people don't want to work that hard. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to diet or lifestyle. A lot of people don't want to work that hard. They want to shove this junk in their mouth and then go take a script that, whether it was Ideal Protein, now it's Ozempic, and it's the next thing down the road.
And then how many people? What are the studies on how many people take prescribed Adderall on a daily basis? Like, that's interesting too, right? Because we all need a stimulant. Even me, like, I like this caffeine. But I've tried to find, and I've been guilty of having a bunch of bad shit on here, but I've tried to find like the one that has like, this is sweetened with monk fruit and stevia. I'm trying not to get away from the sucralose now. You know what I mean? But we all have to have our stimulants. But it's alarming.
1.4 million prescriptions issued in 2020.
41.4 million, and that was in 2020. That was before COVID. So I guarantee you, like, that's the most recent data. What is that percentage? Okay, so if you take that, all right, so you take that adult Adderall. We'll keep looking. That's just children. That's insane. 40 million. Just children.
I don't know anybody taking that. Are people taking it as a stimulant?
Yes. So there's so many people. They're not talking about it, but there's so many like middle-aged women that are on that shit, just like the semaglutide. They're taking. That's what they take every single day. To curb their appetite, to lose weight, to whatever.
I'll never forget, this friend of mine told me about this stuff, and they ended up taking it off the market, but it was essentially a over-the-counter speed stuff. And he was like, I lost all this weight on it. And so back when I was a young lawyer and I was gaining weight, and I knew it was happening because I was focused more on work and not on anything else, I started trying that. And there were times where my heart was about to leap out of my chest. It was so, and I remember, I'll never forget, one day I had, part of what I do is I do real estate, and so I had a number of closings that day, and I was just bouncing from one to the next, and I almost felt like I was going to have a heart attack, and that was the day I quit taking it. It was, and then looking back on it, it was like that stuff, and then they took it off the market because it was so bad. But that's the whole point.
Was it like that Stagger 2 or something when that shit came out?
I forget the name of it, but the FDA had allowed it, and then they took it off the market.
Right.
So, I mean, beware. People just need to.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is like everyone wants a fast-paced solution to, whatever it may be. But if it's, say it's the peptide, the semaglutide. So like, say if they're taking that on a daily or weekly basis, they're trying to offset being unhealthy and overweight, right? But that's you're not getting to the root of the problem, right? And same thing with exercise and fitness and CrossFit, like we're talking about. Yeah. Even if you're not doing CrossFit, anything, like just move. Right. Like watch what you put in your body and try to move. Right. Because the minute you stop watching what you put in your body and the minute you stay still, you're going to die.
Well, I've got one of my friends that we all have lunch with. He's a big guy. You look at him and you say he's heavy, he's overweight. Right. But the guy exercises every day, and he eats pretty good. But his body is going to be in much better health than the average guy his size, because he walks for an hour and a half every morning. He lifts weights 3 or 4 times a week, and so at least he's doing something. Now, is he trying to look great in a bathing suit? No, but the insides, the motor inside, is at least working. Yeah, and hopefully in the long run that'll benefit. You know?
No, I think it's important to talk about. I think that I didn't know what way we were going to go with this today, but I think it's been great topics. I really think that
we got to talk about guns before we get.
Well, let's do it real quick because we're about to have to wrap up. Tell me a little about, because look, I'm not a real big gun buff. I have guns. My wife is a police officer, so we have firearms. But I'm not out.
Oh, your wife is a police officer?
She just recently retired. Okay. But she was for a good amount of time, and so we don't do the range shooting as much. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of hunting in my youth, so I've killed a lot of different animals, and but I don't have a wide collection of firearms. I have about 10 or 12.
Yeah. Well, I grew up hunting and all that, but I really got into pistol shooting about 4 years ago, and I shoot a lot at Red River Range over in Shreveport.
Yeah, Brad's he's awesome.
He was like, he saw me coming in a lot, and he was like, and this goes back to my competitive nature, so I get into martial arts, I compete, get into CrossFit, I compete, and so I'm shooting pistols, and Brad's like, have you ever gone and shot USPSA, which is United States Practical Shooters Association? It's where you see those guys run around and shoot targets, and
paintball with real guns.
Yeah. And it's a mix of, your score's a mix of time and accuracy. Yeah. He's like, you ever done that before? I was like, no. He's like, you ought to go out there. They do it over in Bossier at the Clark Mitchellek range. Okay. And he's like, he goes, you can show up with no equipment. They're great people. People start giving you holsters, and so I started doing it, and that was about 3 years ago. And I'm not good compared to the guys I compete with, because some of those people are phenomenal. And I lived in the basement on the leaderboard for easily 2 years, and then have recently started to kind of get 50%. Every now and then I'll get in the top 20%. But it's a lot of fun. But what it's really done, just like anything that I've gotten into, is, and I think if I leave with this, is just the Second Amendment stuff. As a lawyer, it's really gotten me interested in the Second Amendment fight. And I think that we in the South take for granted those rights. They're being stripped all over the country. I'm a big proponent in joining groups like the NRA, Second Amendment Foundation, these groups that fight these court cases to take away Second Amendment rights. And I think we just assume that they're always going to be there.
Yeah, because we've always had guns. They're always been around. Yeah. They just recently passed concealed carry too, correct?
Right, constitutional carry. Yeah. But it's got its limits. You can't go into Texas. It's only for a resident in their state. So if you're going to be here, but I'm going to still get my concealed carry, because then I can take it to other states with reciprocity.
Yeah, correct.
And so, but the other thing is, I carry a lot, and I just tell my friends too, the world's not getting any safer.
No, it's unfortunate, because we always want to, we don't want to have to worry about that scenario. Right. But that scenario is literally within 5 miles of us every single day of our life. Oh, yeah. In one direction or the other. Right. More in another direction than one.
Dude, I lived in Spring Lake. It was not 5 miles from me.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's literally that close to you every single day. So to be so naive to think that you will never be in a scenario where it's life or death. Right. And if you had that, you could combat that. If you don't, then you're gone.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things I do push. The other thing I push is, I have a lot of folks who get their concealed carry, but they don't practice. And so they may have a gun and they may not carry it on them much, but they'll have it in their car door or something. They'll have it in their console. And I tell people, I'm like, listen, I've been shooting competitive pistol for 3+ years. Now, granted, I'm trying to go fast and I'm moving around, but there are days when I completely miss a target that's only 5 or 7 yards away from me. Okay, and this is not with adrenaline running and another person
not someone
pointing
trying
a
to kill
gun.
you. Yeah.
So I'm like, if you're not practicing, when you pull that gun out in that scenario, when you're scared and the adrenaline's going, you're not going to hit. You're not going to hit what you're aiming at.
I mean, there's a huge issue in that with law enforcement too. Like those individuals only have to qualify. I've had these conversations. I feel like I'm qualified to at least bring this topic up. Right. I've had this conversation in depth with my wife.
Yeah.
There's individuals that only have to qualify once a year,
right.
and they're doing stationary targets, and the simple qualification you have to do to stay carrying a firearm as a police officer. But if you're never put in the scenario, there's been a lot of police officers that have been hurt, injured, killed,
right.
shot too quick, didn't shoot quick enough, whatever it may be, because they haven't practiced. They haven't been put in the scenario, or they haven't pushed themselves to, move that firearm responsibly one way or the other. And it's the same thing with a civilian. It's the exact same thing. And I'm always open to have this conversation with anyone. I'm pro-gun, and I'm pro-rights, and I'm pro every single fucking right in this country. I'm not against anything. Like if it's a law and it's just, and I'll support it.
Right.
There's always something someone's going to push against.
Right.
But I think that is one thing that if everyone else is going to have them illegally, and that's the only thing I have to protect me and my family, I want it.
Oh yeah.
You know.
I mean, yeah, this whole concept. I mean, I hope that we never get to the point where they're trying to confiscate guns in our country. But
right. I just don't think it's possible. I know people talk about it and they create that scenario, but there's just way too many. Man. There's way too many that are that have been passed down from generation to generation. There's no documentation for.
Right.
My grandfather. He had over 100. And he got put into assisted living for a little while. He had a stroke. He bounced back. But while he was in assisted living, he had like 70 guns stolen. Those guns, who knows where they're at? And they were old,
Right.
But there's so many of those people from that generation before us who have, so many,
Well, I guess just my word to folks is if you care about those rights, you need to do something to fight for them. You need to, exercise them. You need to support organizations that exercise them. A lot of people have a problem with the NRA. Fine. But it is one of the largest lobbying, if not the largest lobbying organization for gun rights. They still support a lot of lawsuits that fight a lot of these laws, and you got to support those organizations because they're the ones in courts fighting all these lawsuits over these ridiculous laws that they're coming up with every day to try to limit and strip your rights away. And
it's not Joe Blow in the camo hat going to the Court of Appeals over some bill being passed to strip your rights away.
And so the other thing is, you just need to realize the dangerous world we live in and not be a complete victim. Again, I catch a little heat from my friends, but
or you can be.
Yeah. If they want to,
we don't want you to be a victim of hypertension. Dying early.
Right.
Getting shot by a gun. Not being able to move.
Places where I carry are gas stations, grocery stores. I'm not carrying in restaurants a lot, but places where you feel like random acts of violence could take place. Gas stations is.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story before we wrap this. A friend of mine I talked to earlier today was here this past weekend. He travels and works all over the 3 states, surrounding us. He stays in a particular hotel every single week on a Sunday night, and then he leaves out and he goes out of town and he comes back and he'll stay there on Saturday and Sunday night. There was an event going on. He was down there. Hotel staff got into it with a patron who was trying to park there, wasn't supposed to be because of an event, whatever. He's there. He's around his big work truck. He's out in the parking lot when this happens. Hotel staff goes and gets a firearm out of his vehicle. Potential customer, whoever, goes and gets a firearm out of his vehicle. Friend of mine I know is in a work vehicle. He cannot carry a firearm in that vehicle. He's stuck there. He knows this other individual they're waving guns around. He's right there in the middle of them. He can do absolutely nothing about it.
Right.
And there's 15, 20 other people in the parking lot while this is going on. Like that scenario can happen to any one of you any single day. So it's not a far-fetched thing that you're talking about, right?
Especially if you, and unfortunately, especially in Shreveport, crime's not as bad in Bossier, but in Shreveport, you're in an area where we know that violent crime is a problem. And so why would you just leave yourself to be a victim, every time you go out of the house?
Right. And it is complete understandable that a lot of people push back about this who have never been in a society or in a town or a neighboring town or a state that has issues with these things.
Right.
And stripping those away from law-abiding citizens is not going to resolve the issue. There's a huge argument there. Just like drugs.
Right.
It's still going then you're taking away protecting you from the violent criminals that have them. So that's a huge thing. But a lot of people that push against that are people who never experienced gun violence.
Right.
And there's some that have, and there's some that,
or don't know anything about guns. I mean, that's the other thing too, is I'm not advocating that, especially under constitutional carry, that someone just grabs a gun and starts carrying it and they don't know what they're doing.
Most definitely not.
I don't advocate that.
It's just like driving a vehicle. Like and there's a lot of conversations around that too, right? There should be training for that shit every month, for people that don't know how to drive, But anything that you do anything that our law like governs you having and owning, they expect you to do in a responsible manner. It's anything, right? I mean, it's all the way down to how you operate, on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, I just think folks, they got to wise up, and if you don't want to carry a gun, you're not into guns, that's fine. But what I think is interesting is folks who got their concealed carry, they have a pistol, but they're not really. It's never where it's going to do them any good. And I think that's what I try to do with people I know that are in that scenario. It's like, first of all, protect yourself, practice, get more used to the gun, but at the same time, it's like you don't live in la la land here, so you might want to give it some thought. Yeah, and that really is, my thought has changed greatly over the last 3 or 4 years on that issue. And more comfortable you are with the gun, the more comfortable you will be to carry it. And and it, in my mind, it makes me feel more comfortable because at least I know that I've got an option.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's wrap on that, man.
All right, man.
I appreciate the time
nice
today.
Meeting you, man.
Thank you so
Enjoyed
much.
It.
Yes,